I've been collecting the best tips I can get. So I've been going around site for the last 2 days and getting all the information I can from the technicians for this spring check. So there's not that much spring in the air today in Oxfordshire. But yeah, I've got some great tips. So whether you've had the car stored, whether you've, not used it, or whether you have been using it and you just want to get it ready for summer, either way, I've got some great bits for you. I'll start with a bit of housekeeping stuff just to go through. So I'll run for the first, this will run for about somewhere between 40 and 60 minutes. The first part, I'm going to go through some tips, set tips. I've got whiz over the bench, Shreyas. I've got loads of products that I'm going to recommend and some parts that I'm going to show you and some tips and bits I'm going to show you on the car. So we've got the 3 sections, making the car look good, which is not going to be really basic cleaning stuff, but it's going to be those tips, those bits that are, don't cost much time, don't cost much money or take much time, but really make the car look better, because there's small things you can do that make such a huge difference. We're going to look at storage. If you guys have had the car stored for ages, we're going to look at areas that you can, precautions that you can take, or things that you can check when the car goes back on the road to make sure you don't get any damage. And then we're going to finish up with a little section looking at how to avoid the sort of long-term deterioration. So the cars are 30-something years old, the problems that you get with the cars that come up and things you can do to prevent that so that the cars are more reliable. There's also a link in the comments, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to answer if you haven't answered. Are you getting people come through from the quiz, Lorna? So click in the comments. There's a Mentimeter, and I'll be sharing some details about it at the end. But if you go in, click the link and just answer the questions. I think you can answer 2 out of the 5 questions on if you were designing a Figaro for 2023, what would you change about the original little car? And don't worry, we won't be offended. You can click whichever one you want. I'm generally going to be talking for the 3 sections, and you can post your comments or raise your hand. It's probably going to be easier to post comments. Lorna will pick those up and mediate as we go. Partway through, we're going to have a little quiz, and there'll be a prize at the end for whoever wins the quiz. So I'm excited about that. It's a hard question. If you might think you're a Figaro expert, but we'll see whether you can get this one. Yeah, I think that's everything. Are we getting some responses through on our Mentimeter, Lorna? We're just having a quick look, guys. If you haven't clicked it, we'll give you a second to just go through and have a look.
Anything to click.
And then we'll jump straight in.
Click it. How many are people clicking?
Yeah, we good to go?
There's nothing there.
Okay, so the first section is how to make the Figaro look amazing. And this is just going to be my best tips. There's probably over 100 years worth of Figaro combined experience. And so I spent the last couple of days checking, but I've just gone for the bits that are going to be the best bang for the buck, save you some money and save you some time. So we're starting with the hood. So just get a close up on the hood, Shreyas, while I grab the bit. So this hood's pretty new, but you can see that even from being outside for a short amount of time, it gets this grubby sort of finish on it. And they get this after storage. And to be honest, the color is the worst thing for storage. So we're going to be using 2 really simple products. One is just a basic nail brush from the store, which was $1 or £1 or whatever it was. And then we're going to use this, which is GP, is general purpose. Now, you really don't need an expensive brand name. This, just get a close-up of that, is the one that we use. And it's just a basic multi-purpose cleaner. You wouldn't want to get it on everything, and you wouldn't want to put it on the cosmetics on the inside of the car, because it would probably eat the color away. But on the outside, it's fine. Then the other thing I've got is white roll. It's really, really, really important that it's white roll. Ask me how I know, because if you use blue, it absolutely ruins the hood, or other types of cloth. So literally, we're just if we were cleaning this car to prepare it today, we'd cover the whole roof in a mixture of this general purpose cleaner. And the roof's pretty durable compared to some bits of the car, which we'll talk about in a little while. You can put quite a lot on here. I'll make sure the brush is really clean. And then just literally a circular motion with the brush. And I just keep going and going. And it'd probably take about an hour and a half to do the whole hood and then wipe it off with the white cloth. And you can see almost immediately, with hardly any cleaning, you've got a big sort of halo around there. Now, the other thing, you can stay that side, Shreyas, that's quite important with the roof is just that you can clean all of it. So you can open the hood up and then actually I'll come that side. And then you can also get right inside under here. These little flaps will pull back and you can clean all in the back of here using the same material. And we'll talk about that again when we get to the deterioration. But one of my tips for cleaning is really that it's all in the detail. So when you're cleaning the hood, you're cleaning all of these edges, cleaning the sides of it, cleaning the top, because the difference between a car that looks okay and one that looks great is really those tiny little bits that you think that you can't see. So you can use the same technique to clean. If you look at the tonneau cover in the boot, you can use the same technique to clean this. And you can see this one probably hasn't even been used. And just from being sitting in there, it'll start to go a bit moldy and often they'll end up being thrown away. The next point I wanted to pick up was the bumpers. And I noticed this is quite a good one because if you come round to the front, you can see the original bumpers tend to get these little specks on them. And there's lots of polishes you can buy to clean up chrome, but I would actually recommend none of them. So this is a bodywork polish. Can you see that? It's just called Fast Cut Plus. But these are actually for machine polishing the bodywork on cars, but they work much better for doing chrome because they don't eat up the chrome. A lot of the chrome polishes will actually start to eat through the chrome. Now, this might not get rid of all of it, but just a gentle polish will at least clean up sort of 90% of it. And if you've got none of these little marks or craters, then it will still just get the bumper looking really good. But you can see straight away that gets it as good as it's going to get. Now, what you'd find if you used one of the specific chrome polishes is these little specks would actually get bigger rather than smaller. The chrome on modern parts is not as thick as it used to be in the 50s and 60s. And so you just can't clean them that much. So that's as good as they get. Okay, that's my tip for chrome. And all of it can be cleaned like that. You'll find that you've got metal on the bumpers and metal on the mirror stalks, but you've got different materials around the car. But I would just use the same thing for all the materials. If you are cleaning up bits that are made from plastic and that are chromed, you'll potentially find that they fade a bit more. If you look in here at this headlight surround, at that surface there, it's slightly dull. So you're just never going to get it to clean up as much. But either way, this is the product to use. Now, the next bit that I want to talk about just reinforces my point about the devil being in the detail. And again, we're going to use this. I use it for most bits around the car, but come around this side, Tress. I just want to show the guys in the door shut. So one of the things that often isn't noticed is when you want to get a car looking really nice, really smart, it's actually about the areas that you don't see. Everybody cleans the outside of the car and spends ages polishing it and getting it to look nice. But the most important bits are like here in the door shuts. So if I just show you on this front edge of the door. So if you look in this crevice here in the door, you can see that it's it's got all these little brown bits around the types of the hinges and things like that. And then if you look on the rubbers, they're all stained and black. Sorry, I'm just going to grab some more polish because that one's a bit low. But if this was a car that we were preparing and it was going to go, you know, to a show or to be on demonstration somewhere, I'd be cleaning up all the bits like this. So it's a bit sloppy, but all these tiny little bits, and this stops rust and preserves it as well. But like the little joints here all need to be cleaned up. And you see where, hopefully you can see this on camera. Lorna, if anyone comments they can't see, just say. But if you look like around the rubbers here where it goes all black, this actually will, he says, come off. But you can see it's all starting to clean up there. And that sharp edge is really the bit that makes all the difference. And it takes a long time. You could spend easily 4 or 5 hours going around the car and doing all of those bits. And then to finish those off, we would use something like this. This is like a tire shine stuff, but it's just like a rubber preserver, you know, that improves rubber parts and makes them look shiny. But once I'd cleaned all that up, I would literally be going around and putting this rubber preservation stuff on here. And I'd use it everywhere because the thing that really makes a Figaro look good is because the contrast. So when you've got the contrast between the chrome, the black rubber, and the shiny paint, that's the bit that makes it pop. And so that's why more than any other car, or more than many other cars, you should spend a lot of time cleaning those detail areas. And just while we're talking about the chrome along there, one of the other things that really jumps out on a Figaro is when this chrome is starting to fall away. And you can sort of see it there if you catch it in the camera, where these bits are starting to crack and fail along the edge. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick demo on how to do this, but I won't try and do the full thing now on camera. But you see here, for example, where this is starting to, you've got a split here and it's starting to drop off. Well, what we would do is put a masking tape line along the edge so that was all sealed up. This is actually a white one because I'm not going to try and do it now on camera. But then we just literally run a bead of silicone along the edge of that seal just to make it nice and sharp, because like I say, the devil is in the detail, and it's about all of these little rubbers being sharp and being nice and sitting against the paint, and the paint being nice and polished. You can also, if your rubber's completely falling away, we sell the rubber, but it's quite a big job to take it off, clean it all up and put the rubber back on. We also do this rubber here and the other bits. But as a general rule, if I was talking about the things on the car that absolutely fail the most, and you might get this as a theme as we go through the next half an hour or so, or whatever, it's rubber parts failing. I mean, it's just, you know, it is the biggest problem with the car, and they're the bits that we're constantly trying to reproduce and improve. So in terms of other cleaning parts, let me see what else I've got here. So I was going to talk about, let me know how we're doing for time, Lorna. Okay, cool. I wanted to just mention the hubcaps because they're something that, again, like they make the car pop, and exactly the same as everywhere else, I would still be using this same type of product to treat the rubber, get the rubber to look really good, get the rubber to look really shiny, and then you've got the shiny black against the shiny white. That's really how you get a car to look $1 million. the hubcaps you can clean on the car or take them off, but I just wanted to pick them up because, and this one's actually quite good, but what often happens is around the edges they're starting to go brown, and I wanted to pick it up because I just don't want you to waste your time, because as soon as this bit starts to fade, the more you polish it, the more it will fade, and the worse it will get. But again, I'd just be using the same product. These types of fast cutting products, we get through bottles and bottles of this because it's just ideal for cleaning lots of surfaces. Not every surface, but painted or shiny surfaces, it's ideal for. Have we got any questions on these bits, Lorna, that we need to? Yeah. So we will definitely be following up with an email that'll have a list of the products. Most of the things, as I said, though, that we use, none of them are that specialist. We'll give you the list, but I don't think that it's often worth getting caught out with really expensive products. In terms of the inside, do you want to come this side and I'll go around there to show the inside? Again, we're using mainly two really simple products on the inside. Now, this car has had the interior panels refinished, which does make a difference, which means these have been recoated in like a smooth, slightly matte finish, whereas the original interiors, when they go sticky, that is, the beginning of the end for the coating. But again, for here, white cloth, make sure it's a white cloth. Leather seats, normally I just use white spirit. You'd think it's quite a abrasive, corrosive material, but it's not. So where you've got just little marks on the seats, I just gently wipe these off with white spirit. I mean, right from out of the trim shop, it's white spirit on the leather, just because it gets greasy finger marks off and things like that. If your seats are old and the leather is cracked, there's not that much you can do. Really, I haven't ever had a great deal of success using those products that are designed to feed the leather. Maybe when the leather's new, but not so much when it's old. Again, if I've got a refinished interior like this one, I would use the same thing to clean up any finger marks that are around the inside there. And the other thing, which I guess is potentially slightly unusual, is this is just a standard card glass cleaner. And again, I'd be using this on the inside just to wipe bits down, especially, things like these sun visors. The general purpose, you can stay there a minute, Stress, the general purpose cleaner that I was using for the roof, I would use something like that on the inside, but you just got to be really, really careful because it is a bit more aggressive. You can potentially use it. Purchase, or which one? You could, if you called us up, we could supply it, but really it's just a rubbing compound. So it's like T-Cut that you'd buy in any motorist centre, or you'd buy it from a paint manufacturer. But if it's something that someone's stuck with, we can do it and send it to them. But it's really, yeah, we'll send some links to it, definitely. But the general purpose cleaner is really general. So it's probably like a general purpose cleaner you could get in a supermarket. But again, we'll send some links to it. So yeah, the general purpose cleaner, a bit watered down. Again, we could clean things like the sun visors in the same way that we clean the roof. And if it's really bad, we can just use the brush to get it off. But you wouldn't really want to use this on the leather. Probably not on the panels too much either. So I'd try for the white spirit and the glass cleaner on the inside. Sadly, unlike the outside, with the inside, once it's gone too far, you have to really recoat it. There's not as much saving it. Like with a hood, you could scrub away at it for 4 hours and nothing's going to happen. Whereas with something like the seats, if they don't clean up in a few minutes, you might be struggling. How do you move the cover? Okay, so who's asking? Mark. So you need to get the cover off on the interior light. So Mark, you can just prise this off basically. So it depends. If you're just trying to check, I probably can't do it with my fingers, but basically you can just put a small screwdriver in there and twist it. And then once the center's off, then you can just pluck the outsides. You can possibly get them off like that as well if you just want to change one bowl. But this piece and this piece and this piece, just gently prise off. You just need to be gentle with them because they've all got little tabs on, and you can snap the tabs off if you're not careful, and then you'd either have to replace them or glue them. Yeah. So the handbrake, yeah. So I would say that you could definitely use a general purpose cleaner on the handbrake. The one in the car, Shrez, if you just focus on that, is this has been recoated, so it probably would clean up a little better, because what happens, you might not see it in the light, but they sort of crack and the material goes a little bit porous. So try with some general purpose cleaner, but if yours has gone brown, then it's probably needs recoating. But you can take the center console out, take the handbrake out, and then recoat it or trim it in leather or whatever you want to do with it. Okay, we'll send links to the cleaning products from that section, but I hope that was useful. I think it's probably answered. I'm going to pick your questions up at the end that I've got from the list you sent over, which is fabulous. But I think hopefully the ones that were to do with cleaning, hopefully we covered some of those. Section 2 is about how do we avoid engine damage, especially after long periods of storage. And we see so much of this, and it can be months of repairs or thousands of pounds or whatever the challenge that you get stuck with. So I want to give the best tips I can on these. And the first thing I want is Lorna's going to do a screen share for the first couple of minutes, or well, first half a minute or something while I talk. Let me know when that's up, because this has been one of the most surprising things that I think I've seen in a long time. Well, not in a long time, a lot of. Has it gone up? So the image that you guys can see on the screen is actually the airbox. And I think those 3 pictures are from the last couple of weeks. And it's not necessarily that the cars came from the middle of the countryside, but those are actually mouse nests or some type of rodent nests. Do you want to take the picture down, Lorna? Because I'm going to demonstrate on the car. Shreyas, if you come this side, and then you can look over the engine bay. So what you could see in the picture was the nest. But what's actually happening is this cover here, and I've actually put the screws down somewhere, but I'd also already unscrewed it. For whatever reason, mice and rodents love the slightly perished rubber that is all over. So if you've ever got like funny little marks on these covers, and if you look closely, they're often teeth marks. But this is the airbox, and they seem to love getting in this box and making a nest in it. They'll normally eat through the air filter until they get in and make a nest in the bottom. But it's crazy that they do it so often. There's literally so many of them that we see. So the best tips I can give you are, if your car's in storage for a long time, check it, because it will suck all the nesting bits through there, and you can damage the airflow meter. And then we've seen cars where it's actually the whole engine's had to come apart to get it out, because people have started it and then driven it, and it just sucks it all through. If you want to stop it happening and you're in long-term storage, you could just block this hole, because that's when that's bolted on, that's the end of the air pipe, which is normally sucking the air in as you drive down the road. But make sure that's completely blocked so that things can't get in there while the car's stored. And if you're getting the car back out of storage after a period, check it, obviously. And if there is things in there, either give us a call and we can explain it, or start to strip these boxes apart, because sometimes there'll be a nest in there and a nest in there. Yeah. And so it's always, a bit of a mess on those bits. The other thing that is really important to check. When I said earlier that there's a bit of a theme today or in general about rubber parts failing on the car, is the hoses. And if you look at these hoses, so come over to this bench so it's a bit clearer. So every part on the car that's made out of rubber is starting to fail, and you might even hear that, but you might hold it near the mic. That crunching is because the rubber's perished and it's basically falling apart. Generally, you'll find that bits start to rattle or bits start to fall apart, but with the hoses, and this is the top hose, so it's the hose out the radiator, it perishes, explodes, water goes everywhere, and then the engine gets hot too quickly and then detonates one way or another, basically, and you end up having to replace the engine and replace all the hoses. So what we try and do with as many parts as we can is change them to silicone, so this lasts a lot longer, is more durable, and is obviously new because some of the hoses aren't even made. So checking and changing the hoses. To be honest, if you haven't changed the hoses, they're just not going to last over 30 years. They weren't ever designed to last that long. So irrelevant of the storage, you should still change them. Yeah, sun's come out. It is spring. So yeah, hoses and any other rubber parts, but the hoses are the ones for engine damage, but any of the rubber parts are going to be starting to fail. Obviously, you want to go through, check your water and check your oil. We'll put this on the list, but we'll just be using a 1040 oil. And I'll do a quick oil and water check while we're here, just so you can see, because there's a couple of little knacks that are sort of handy. So starting with the water, this is really an expansion tank, not a header tank. So irrelevant of whether we've got water in there, which I think we have on this car because I can see it from here. You should check in here and you should be able to see that on the top, you've got water all the way up to the top, basically. So if you can see the fins in the radiator, then you haven't got any water and you don't want to start the car. So checking the water, and then just checking the oil as well, just making sure the dipsticks on these aren't great. So you have to generally take them out, clean them all up, dip them again. And my tip is normally, I'll get it in the light, is they normally seem to pick up better on the back for some reason rather than on the front where the crosshatch is. They're not particularly good. And obviously you don't really want to check it when it's running. But yeah, you can see there, like on the front of it, if I hold it in the light, it just smears it the whole way up the dipstick. But on the back, you can at least see that it's full to the top and it hasn't smeared it all the way up. So they're not perfect, but, you know, good enough. And you could see on the end of there that the oil in this car, which is quite new, it's got that nice golden color. So they will go black, especially in an older engine. But if it's nice and golden, that is a pretty good sign. The other thing you check is the cam belt dates. And I've got a feeling one of the questions that somebody sent in was about the cam belt. So again, same theme. It's a rubber part. You might not have done 50,000 miles, but if the cam belt's perished and it's been on there more than 5 years, you need to change it. Ideally, somewhere in your paperwork or stuck on this cover, if you can see, somewhere stuck on the cover, there's not one on this, or in the paperwork for the car or the records, if it's been going to the same garage, you'll have a record, but you do need to keep up to date with changing it. Don't just go on the mileage. Yeah, we will get onto that. So the oil, we'll share the link, but this is a 1040 that we're using, shining on the label. We're going to send you details of that. With the antifreeze, the only trick is you can have red, blue, or green, but just to make sure that you don't put different ones in because they can sort of congeal a little bit. So if you're unsure, you can actually normally test it. So hopefully this will work. But if you're not going to drain it, you can test it by just literally taking, again, a white piece of rag. And then hopefully if we dip this in here, yeah, look, you can see this one's red antifreeze because it's bright pink. So we know that it's red. The red, green and blue is basically just the temperature that it's resilient to, so that it won't freeze at a certain temperature, but it's fine as long as you've got all of the same color in there, you know, so we wouldn't put green on top of that one. Okay, so yeah, so my last point was going to be about fresh fuel. So really the sort of the benchmark is that fuel is only going to last about 3 months. And we have seen, especially in the past 12 to 18 months, extensive damage caused by either old fuel or long-term running with fuel with a higher ethanol level. And so we've developed a slightly improved injection system. We've developed a aluminium fuel tank and basically tried to start upgrading all the parts on the car. You can drain the tank. So 3 months is definitely on the cautious side. That's where I'll start. But you can drain it quite easily. So if you're going to store it for a year, then you don't really want to leave fuel in it. On the bottom of the tank, let's see, are we going to be able to see this? So if you go from under there, so let me come around this side. So I need to. So you can drain the tank. It's actually not that hard to do, but if you can see, you see on my finger it shows. Yep. So basically there's just a plug and you can drain it, open it up, and it would drain it into a tray. The only thing with trying to drain the tank is that it holds whatever it holds, 30-ish sort of litres, and it's hard when you're doing it on the floor because you need lots of big places to put it. So just be aware of it. Was the question about which fuel to buy, Lorna? So it depends on the location. If you're in the UK, you'd buy just the standard unleaded. You've got higher ethanol in the US, and I think a lot of you guys on this call are from the US. And so I just use the lowest ethanol rating that you can. But do bear in mind, the ones with stale fuel, you can end up having to pull the fuel system apart and change the fuel pump and things like that. So just try and, you know, be mindful of it. Or if you're thinking of storing it and draining it, run the fuel really low, and then you're only draining out a litre or two. They're my main areas on avoiding engine damage, because if you can do those things, you're potentially going to avoid the major damage. Was there any other questions, Lorna, from that section? All right, all good. Do we have, is Kevin on the call? Do you want to let him? So guys, what we're going to do before we go to section 3, which is how to avoid deterioration and prevent costly bills, we're just going to give Kevin a second to speak, and he's going to tell you about an event that he's running at the Owners Club, because I thought it might be useful to you guys. Is he there to speak? I know he's got his hands full.
Yes, I am. Cool. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so it's Kevin Fagan from the Figure Owners Club. Great to be with you. I hope this Sunday everyone can get their cars out, because what we've created is a Drive Your Figaro Day. So what we're hoping to achieve worldwide is everyone take their cars out. Hopefully the weather's going to be nice. Get out up the road or go to a beauty place, somewhere you know. Maybe take some pictures of yourself and the car and send the information into us, sales at Figure Owners Club. What we're going to do, we're going to create a big collage of everyone. We're going to post it on our website, on social media. So send us your information about yourself. Maybe if your car's got a name, obviously include that as well. And obviously where the location where the picture was taken. So this Sunday is Drive Your Figaro Day. And I mean, we've learned so much here. I bet we're itching to get out and use our cars. And obviously over the last kind of half an hour, I mean, even I've learned a lot. White Spirit on leather seats. I've never heard of that. And that's a great little tip from from Tobin. So really enjoying it so far. I'm sure there's lots more happening, but please send us your pictures, and we'd love to post them on social media, on our website and in our newsletter. Okay, so great to see you all. Fantastic. Keep well from Kev and Sue. All right, cheers, bye.
Are we back on sound? Just wait for Lorna to turn the volume off. Got an echo. Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks, Kevin. And do send your pictures into the club and keep supporting the club. We love the work they're doing over there. They've got a great, did he mention, they've got a great series going on rust prevention as well. So we're going to do section 3, which is how to slow deterioration and prevent costly bills. We are then going to move on to some questions from you, the quiz, and I'm going to give you some feedback on the Mentimeter, the poll stuff that you filled in. But also, while we're going, do put your location in the comments, because some people are asking, and we're always fascinated because we get to meet some of you guys from all over the world. Sometimes we're lucky enough that you come here or you ship your car all the way here, and we're lucky enough to work on it. So do let us know where you're from, because it also helps us to understand the best type of products to develop, which is an exciting part of our job. No, I'll do that in a minute. I'll save Lorna's trying to goad me into asking the question that I'm going to give a prize for, but you've got to wait for that. Okay, so preventing the slow deterioration. So this is a mix of like cosmetic bits, bodywork bits, servicing bits, and there was like many tips from the technicians, but I thought which ones would save you some money. So this one I think is a good tip. Not many people know, and it's definitely a money saver because it's a few $100 when you get it wrong, or pounds, or wherever you are. So this is a set of rear brake shoes. Doesn't matter that you don't know exactly what they are, but when you go to your mechanic or buy them or put them in, they look almost the same, like all 4 are identical, but they're very slightly different. So you can see here that although this one looks almost the same, this piece, this friction material on this one sits right at the top, and on this one sits slightly further back. They will fit either way round. You could match either of these and you could put it on that way or that way. If you get them the wrong way round, and we'll send you a photo of this afterwards, because there's no official way of knowing, but if you get them the wrong way round, this material is in the wrong place, the shoes wear out really fast, and the handbrake lifts all the way up in the air. And I think probably 50% of the Figaros that we get in have the brake shoes on the wrong way round. So hopefully that's a good tip, and it will save you a few £100 or bucks when you next get your brakes done. The other tip follows on really from our engine checks, and it's just about doing regular servicing. You know, the list is pretty extensive in terms of the damage that can be caused by just not having fresh oil and things like that. The way that the Figaro engine works is it has all these little pathways that are drilled through the engine that basically feed oil through the block, back and forth, through the shafts that run up and down. And as soon as the oil gets old and gets too thick or gets burned or damaged, it just blocks up and it stops cooling the engine, and then the engine starts to detonate and bits break off. So that type of basic servicing really does save you money in the long run. It really is worth it. The next one is to do with the bodywork, and for the Figaro veterans on the call, you will know that the Figaro has these, you can get it from this side first, has got these drain holes everywhere. So for example, you've got drain holes there at the back of the gully. You've got these drain holes that are here, so that when the wet boot, you know, when the hood opens, it goes down into the wet boot. And to make it easier to show you how this works, I've got one that I took off the car earlier. Well, actually, that's not true. I found it on the shelf. I definitely didn't take it off the car. But this fits. So that hole there and that hole there are those two pieces there. And then it comes down and out of the floor. And Tress, can you just get down under the back? If you see, get down low enough, it comes out here. So where my finger is there. Now, the thing is, as soon as they get blocked up, which they do all the time, this gully here just has water that sits in the bottom and it just rusts it away. So everybody will have some implement that they can use to clean this. This is apparently, according to Chris, a piece of an old piece of welding wire or something, but it could be like a cable from a bicycle or something like that. But when it's on the car, you don't need to strip this off. You just put these down the tube, push them until they come. Even on this one, it won't actually, it might with a wiggle go all the way through, but I might have to go that way or possibly up from the top. You can see it's fiddly, even with it in my hands. It's not that easy to do. And clean it through. And then once you've done it and cleaned it through, you'll be doing this on the car because you don't need to take it off. You can then check it by pouring some water in it. And then it should, there you go, pour out the bottom and just drip under the car. If it didn't disappear and we had a puddle in here, we'd know that it still needed to be unblocked. You've also got them, if you stay that side, Trash, you've also got them on the roof. So just here is the same thing. And so these ones are much harder because they go down the frame inside the car. They're harder to try and clean out. But you can check them again by pouring water in the top. And if it's not coming out, it means it's going inside the seals, which does mean that it's filling up inside the car. And that is a classic way to cause loads of rust and damage inside the car. Now, something that we've developed, which we're more than happy to try and talk you through, but is potentially a bit of a struggle to do at home, and we'll share some photos, and I also think Kevin's got a video on it, is repositioning those pipes so that rather than coming out through the seals, which they did originally, they poke through and just come out under the plastic liner there. So, Lorna, if you just make a note, we'll link to the article about that. But the drain holes are really important because you won't see where the water's going, but it will, over time, cause the car to rust. While we're on those bits, it's also cleaning up the boot, the rubbers in the boot, because again, the water should run round here and then run through and drain out of the second hole. And you can see here, we've just trimmed this rubber. So we've made that little hole there so that the water runs through there, because you can see where this is dappled. That's because at some point it's been running into there. And when it runs into there, it runs under the back and ends up going under the seats. Lorna, if anybody has any questions about the water leak stuff, I can pick them up now or send any links. We've got a link actually about how to trim these rubbers, which I won't try and do now, but we can send over. But yeah, the rubbers are really important. It's a very complicated system on the Figaro in an attempt to try and keep it dry, which doesn't work that well. The same with these roof rubbers. They're designed to channel the water straight round to the back, and they don't really work that well. So they often have to get cleaned up with the cleaned up and resealed. Okay, right, I've got to keep going, timing. The other two tips I've got for preventing costly bills. One is a really simple thing, which is get one of these little battery cut-off switches. They're only a few pounds. You can get them from us or get them from a motorist centre, but they will. It's better to get them from us, actually, because these are quite a unique sized battery. But anyway, it will mean that when you put the car in storage, you can disconnect the battery like I just did then with just a turn. And so it saves, literally this is battery off and battery back on, and it just saves the battery going flat all the time, because That's very common. And then my final point is just about wax oiling the car. So quite a few of you asked questions, asked in your questions that you'd sent in about rust on the car. Jerry asked about rust on the bottom of the door. And wax oiling the car is almost not really optional anymore. It needs to be done. All of the cavities in the Figaro tend to rust over time. And so wax oil is really the only way to prevent it. So, for example, when we're repairing the sills, we'll drill into the sills, feed a pipe in and fill the sills up with wax so that they're protected over time. If you can't get to us or to somewhere that can do a professional wax oil, you can do it yourself, but just painting it on the underside when you buy it in a tin doesn't really work. But wax oil, now that we're up to 30 whatever years we're on, is really important to do. So that's probably my greatest tip. Don't expect it to do anything other than prevent deterioration or slow deterioration. It's not going to fix it. Do we have any questions on those bits, Lorna? Good, excellent. We will send you out a you could top it up every few years, basically. Depends on where you live. I mean, really, just to add on to that, the other thing is really about storage. You know, ideally, you want the car to be dry stored, even when you're using it all the time. And if it can't be, you don't want it to be on damp ground. I've been to inspect cars in the past that have been parked on ground that doesn't seem that damp, and they've got that bad that you can almost put your hand through the floor. It's turned into almost cardboard. So dry storage, and then just keeping an eye on it, really. You know, if it's in dry parking, you probably don't need to keep wax oiling it all the time, but it won't hurt.
Battery off on better, is battery off on better than the battery charger?
It doesn't really. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Pardon? Oh no. Oh, sorry. So the question was, is it better to use a trickle charger? I think this is what it meant, than use the battery on off. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's parked inside. You can use a trickle charger. I mean, trickle charger is good because it will just keep a slow charge going in it. This will do the same thing. As long as the battery's not sat on the floor, it tends to not go that flat. If I took the battery off the car, I shouldn't just leave it sitting on a concrete floor because it will actually flatten quickly. But yeah, either's fine, not a problem. Just make sure the trickle charger is safe. That's all.
Mark's boot for roof storage.
Yes.
It's working in October, but now not used it a few months now. It's not.
Okay, Mark's boot for roof storage was working and now it's not. So if he's live in the comments, can he just answer, is it clicking? When he's pressing the button, is he getting... So you'll be able to hear it from there, Shreyas. But if you're getting the clicking as I'm pressing the button, what's happening is it's just firing these little latches here. And we actually had it with this car when we got it out today, is that it hadn't had the roof. No clicking. Okay, so if there's no clicking at all, then it could be one of the little safety mechanisms on the switches, something like that. But if he gives us a call, we'll try and diagnose it step by step. But what you find with the Figaro is lots of little safety switches to stop things happening. That's why you've got all these slightly frustrating, possibly beeps that go off and things like that. But yeah, give us a call and we'll be able to diagnose that over the phone, hopefully. Someone asked how often do we change the oil? So you change it annually, and if you're using it a lot, you change it 6 monthly. But the way that we normally put it is oil is cheap, engines are expensive. So try and look at it that way. Yeah, okay, we haven't got very long. So oh yeah, I do, but let me get people going for the prize. So okay, so if anybody can guess, or whoever's the closest in terms of guessing, on the site here at Figaro, we have a few units spread across a little industrial estate. if anybody can, whoever gets the closest to guessing how many Figaros are on site today, so I know you're not here, so you're going to be guessing, we'll send you a goodie bag. We'll go and raid the store and find some stuff and send those over. You got 10 minutes to put it in the comments. It's more than one and less than 1,000. That's my tip. Oh, thank you for all sharing your. Yeah, and you won't be able to find it on Google Maps because it's from today. Oh, thank you to everyone for coming from all over. Kath from Shropshire, Rick from the Netherlands. Wow, how international. I can't read if it's say Horst from Germany. Sorry, I can't. I'm not sure. Horst, I'm not sure. Joseph from Washington. Hey, how you doing? Joseph's car's been here having some work, so it looks amazing. So we're really excited for you to get that back. Mark from Solihull, Leanne from Canada, Kate from South Wales. Wow. Athena from Norway, Rosie, who won the charity car. So thank you for that. And I know that the Compassionate Friends were really grateful. So we're really excited for you guys to get the car. We really are grateful. That's such a lovely thing for us to be able to be involved with. William from Kansas, Kirsty from Pennsylvania, and Doug from USA. Wow, very international. How cool. I think have we got any more questions? Let me see if I've got anything off and on at the end. I was going to answer. Let me answer the quiz stuff from the start. So, Lorna, can you see the results from it? Did people? The reason we were asking you about this is because we are currently in the process of designing what we want to be, and most of you have said that we'll share these results with you tomorrow. So you want to the most popular result was improving reliability and reducing servicing. What's the second one? There's one with similar boats. And making it suitable for long distance. That's exciting because that's what we were hoping you'd say. So we're working already on a top secret project that we haven't even got a name for yet, but those were some areas. So we're also hoping, please, that we could possibly come back to you guys with a little multiple choice thing to just ask for a bit more feedback, because we really want to develop products that help you to enjoy these cars a little more. And so maybe if you are feeling generous, you will answer our little questionnaire, which we'll try and send out maybe later or possibly with the results from this. But yeah, thank you for coming. It's lovely to see all those votes. And then finally, the goodie bag. Oh, and we can't. The closest person is Kevin, but you can't get it because that would feel like we had
Peter Bailey.
Which is the closest though? Oh, Peter.
Peter Bailey.
Peter Bailey, you are the closest with 63. It's actually 54. So you were actually, Tony T was one off. And Kevin was 52, but Kevin, you don't get the prize, I'm afraid, because that's like giving the prize to, we can't give the prize to someone we know. Peter, 9 off, you get a prize. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm going to get you a bag and fill it up with goodies and raid the back and get Maz to help. Excellent. Right. Any last questions? I think I've highlighted the ones from the list here. Claude did ask about suspension, and I think there's 2 options. You asked about, do you change the top mounts? If ever there is something you're unsure about, go back to my point about rubber parts. They're going to be broken. Most of the suspension has rubber parts in. If it's not new, you need to change it. You could change it or change it for a coilover kit. Rust in the bottom of the door, said Jerry. Jerry, yes, you can. You need to pull the door apart and repair it. Give us a shout if you need anything. So this one's actually been painted. That's why it's shiny across here. And then some of the parts, I think, have been finished. You can buy these bits from us. They're replated. These are not... well, they are original, but they've all been repainted and shiny. You probably can't clean them up that well, but you could give it a go. But yeah, you need to replate them. We sell them in the shop. And then this is a strut brace, which will make it handle a little better and also make it look really cool. That, I think, is everything. That's it. That was an hour. Thank you for your time today. Sending lots of love from Oxfordshire in the UK. And yeah, hopefully see you soon. We'll email everything out to you guys. See you later from me and Shreyas and Lorna and everybody at the shop.